Hello and welcome to AXSChat. Delighted to welcome Laura and Tom from Ramble Tag. So this is a great example of our community bringing together some innovation and highlighting to us. So you came to us via our own audience. So this is fantastic because we want to grow the community of people doing great stuff around disabilities. So I know a bit about Ramble Tag, and I know that you were a finalist in the RNIB Innovation of the Year Awards in 2019. But Laura, tell us a bit more about who you are, what you've done, and how you and Tom come to be working together.
Yep. Hi, I'm Laura, this is Tom, and we are neighbours. So we basically, I would help Tom walk his dog, and we found that we were just kind of struggling keeping together or keeping pace on one of our walks, and we were just kind of bantering and decided, that there could be a better solution. So we started from there.
Yes, that's we had a conversation just about if there was something we might be able to come up with to allow the dogs a bit of leeway for us to, obviously for Laura to guide me, and that's how the Ramble Tag came about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So because we're neighbours, we just kind of let the idea flow straight away and went with it, and we developed a prototype that night, and just from there it snowballed.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the Ramble Tags is like a strap with a handle that you can help guide someone. Because when you got one, perfect.
I got one just handy.
Hold it to the camera.
Right. Yeah. So I'll just describe it. So it's basically a flat harness. Is that held up okay?
Up a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit more. That's it. Super.
Right. So flat harness, 2 Velcro straps, with a little handle that extends out, and it's worn around the upper arm of the guide. So it just wraps around like so, around the arm, and then it allows just an alternative way to be guided that we feel is, more secure than holding, for us, than holding an elbow or linking an arm, because we had that wee bit of extra freedom to move and not so restricted, but it's still feeling secure for both of us. I'd never guided anyone before, so for me it felt like I had Tom safe. It felt a lot more secure for him, and for him he just felt a lot more free and able to go at his own pace and let our dogs pull us around.
It worked really well for me, simply from the flexibility, yet knowing that I had that contact with Laura, so it worked out really well for us, in that specifically for walking the dogs, and then obviously we started really to think about it and whether that it could be adapted or used for people in similar sort of circumstances, or to branch out into guiding for a variety of applications.
Yeah,
like within the first when we did our Kickstarter campaign and got a lot of support, and it, finished that, and then instantly we got contacted by Glasgow Airport. So they were the first ones to kind of, initially we just thought something for people to use daily, and then it was then that kind of came to us like, these are going to be great for assistance as well. So that was quite an exciting wee eye-opener to where it could go.
Having guided a few people myself, I can say how, as a novice, how awkward you feel and how nervous you get that you're not going to walk someone into a pavement, and knowing well, which bit do I hold on to, which bit do they want to hold on to. So having a handle that they can grab onto you with makes a lot of sense. And I also think that for airports and public places where you've got a rotating staff that may not necessarily have like training on how to do this right, giving them a tool makes a lot of sense, because they put that on, they can feel confident, and the person that they're guiding also then knows what to expect too. You're setting expectations.
Yeah, it's consistent, and everybody knows that the handle's going to be a certain size. That's what they're holding. Everyone can learn a wee technique where I just tell Tom to put his hand up, and I just hook it on rather than him looking for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just a consistent sort of way of doing things that we think would make things, less. Just ease a wee bit of anxiety when travelling.
Can you tell us about how this was accepted from the part of the airport staff, how they manage this, and how they end up working with this with other people who also need it?
Basically, when you travel, you're supposed to, when you book your travel arrangements, you're supposed to alert the airport that you will require assistance. On arriving at the airport, they will, you say, well, if it's a visual impairment that you have, if they have the Ramble Tag, as they do at Glasgow, then they will suggest to you, will offer you this as a way of getting through the airport to go to, whether it be the departure gate or directly to the aircraft. So it means even though you are accompanied, with another traveller, obviously the airport know the correct route to arrive at your destination without fuss and bother. So basically, the visually impaired person hooks up with the assistance person at the airport, and the person they're travelling with gets to trot along behind carrying the luggage.
I noticed I noticed in some of the pictures that you share with us that there were other examples of using it. Can you share that with us, please?
Well, we've got a few arranged now, and we've had people using small ones worn on their wrist for guide running. So there's a sort of sporty aspect of it. And we've got, the standard ones just for either daily walks. We've got walking groups that, a walking group have just ordered a wee batch today, and, they love them for going out and just walks in the park, wherever. And then, assistance. So we've Ibrox football stadium. They are using them as well. So they were quite quickly big fans, and for getting through, one of the football fans described them as getting through the crowds. They're weaving through rather than, they're just a lot more confident to be in the crowds rather than waiting for them to pass and then going through.
So probably it's not happening, but is the football club branding it? Because that would be something.
We've tried. We do push. we do some nice designs and send them and say, hey, what about this? And they say, how much is that? And we'll just go for unbranded. So ideally, that would be lovely. And what we would want, all the different sort of airports and nice Etihad, and I don't want to name one and not others, so delete that. Lots of different logos.
Edinburgh Airport took it upon themselves to have the Ramble Tags designed to match with their corporate identity, I suppose. So we created nice purple coloured ones for them,
yes.
Which are marked with they have their logo and Edinburgh Airport. In fact, Laura's got one to show you.
Yes, sorry,
Yeah.
they was there, so they were quite proud to have them, and they have the neat box as well. So
Yes.
folk will book in via the neat box and get offered the Ramble Tag for use if they're visually impaired.
That's great. We're big fans of Gavin. Debra, you had a question?
Yeah, it seems like this would help people more than just the part of the visually impaired and blind community. I know that sometimes people with autism, for example, they don't like to be touched, and you get this really intense environment with all these people at you. It seems like that would be a benefit. It seems like there would also be a benefit for someone like my husband who has dementia. It's something like this would be helpful for him as well. So I was just wondering if y'all have taken, if the people that are using the places, I should say, that are using them, are they also using them for other people with disabilities that might need assistance as well?
That we know of, not currently. The IBRIC staff did say similar, that they thought they could be used, for autism specifically as well. I think because when we started out, it was our focus to, gain the support of like the RNIB and really get it into market that people understood, what we designed it for, and then kind of, we're obviously open to helping as many people with them as possible. But as far as approaching that directly, we've not done yet, but there's definitely, space for people to use them in that way. I think Liz had said that she had a blind and autistic a teenager using it, and he loved it because of the not liking touch.
Excellent. Yeah, I can see lots of uses, particularly like the stuff around athletics and guided running. There's a chap that I'm in contact with out in Spain that does a lot of athletics. I'll make him aware of this. So,
it's another method, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So, what are your backgrounds? Because if you're just neighbours and you raise the money through Kickstarter, are you doing this full time now? Is this still a passion project and a sideline, and you've got other pots boiling at the same time?
Well, I'm a self-employed dog walker and have been for 10 years. So that keeps the the roof over your head. But because we're neighbours, basically, we can work in the evenings. Tom works a lot during the day. He spends, the day on the phone. I'll look up phone numbers and things at night and contacts on Twitter and stuff, and then Tom goes at it on the phone the next day. So he's you're the chat king.
We're still at hobby status, but hopefully as we progress and the Ramble Tag improves in style and uses, that maybe we might earn a penny or two from it.
Yeah, we would love to, I would love to work full time on it, but as it stands now, it's really pushing it out there, getting the idea spread, and you've got to do what's sensible at the start.
Yeah. So I think that it's a great example of how simple things can really work, because often we end up we all three of us work in some form of technology, and a lot of the time it's easy to think that tech is the answer, and actually what you've got here is, it's not a high tech solution, but it's a perfectly, it's a really easy, serviceable one. We're not trying to link people up with like Bluetooth connection and proximity sensors and all of this kind of stuff, because I do think that sometimes we over engineer things just for the sake of saying we've got the latest technology.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We
go on.
we did have some concerns about, with traditional guidance methods, about visually impaired who are accustomed to, the cup and elbow method, and whether the Ramble Tag, would it be subtle enough to transmit, the physical directions, and that the visually impaired person could realise them as well as their audio guidance. So we took it upon ourselves to develop another Ramble Tag, which we've called the Metro Tag. I think Laura's just going to show you what this one looks like.
Is that good up there? Higher?
Yeah, no, down a bit.
Down a bit?
Down. Yeah, that's it.
The difference with this one is that the handle is flush. So
Okay.
rather than it hanging out, we had a wee bit of resistance from traditional guides that felt, with the information not passing through. So we kind of thought, well, something for busier spaces where you want to be a bit closer and you don't need the full tag. Although we love our original, is to give the option of people that maybe want to have more closeness and a wee bit more information feeding through the movements of the arm. So that's been one of our main things, is to get everybody on board, visually impaired people and the guides, the traditional guides. We don't want to take away from anything like that, but we want to add these options into it for, get people with various degrees of sight loss that might prefer one to the other, or just depending on what environment they're in, it might be more suited to use one or the other. So just another choice.
We'd like to cover the board. If you want to walk in the country, or you want to hang around railway stations suspiciously, or if you want to go for a jog in the park, Ramble Tag hopefully is something for you. As you probably be well aware, inclusion is all very well, but we feel, and I feel particularly strongly, that without choice, then inclusion is, impossible.
Will we hand over to Debra? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of questions, and they're not necessarily. A couple of questions I have are like, I assume that as an individual you can buy them yourself, so that you don't have to wait for the airport or the sports arena to have them there. And I also would just be curious, because that's the way my mind works, about do whenever the airport gives them out or the sports arena gives them out, does the person get to keep them, or do they give them back when they are at their place? And then the third point I wanted to make was just like, and Neil sort of hit upon this, but it's just, we have seen since man began, and we started tracking things, we see people with disabilities being innovator. People with disabilities and people that love people with disabilities being innovators to help solve the problems that society has put upon people with disabilities because it's not accessible. So I think this is just another example of the individuals that need choices coming up with the solutions and being the innovator. So I just want to compliment you on that. And then I was just curious about those other two questions, and then I'll turn it back over to António.
Laura, can you explain to Debra that it's, is the guide and it's the stadium who purchased them, so that it's not returning it, that the person being guided will be escorted to his seat, and then so.
Well, I don't need to explain it. So the staff wear them.
You did good.
I don't know why I was given.
Well, I thought you okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can, we sell them on our website, and also the RNIB sell currently just our original one. So we're speaking with them to hopefully take on the new models as well.
The Metro Tag.
The Metro Tag, and the latest version of the original, which we changed the interior of because although not many people said that, a few people said on certain fabrics it could slip. So we've altered the material for inside, for the likes of high vis, more shiny fabric. It sits better on that. So yes, you can buy from the shop, and no, they don't lend them out because they know they would never get them back. And they cost £23 is the original one, and the small ones for sports running are £21. And then we have another one, just to complicate matters, which we developed with the rail stations in mind because we knew they were very conscientious about health and safety and what classed as quick release. So we created one with a quick release buckle, and that's £25 just now. That's on sale. But yeah, we did that as a kind of trial to experiment with what could be classed as quick release if something like a big company wanted them for environments that they, had a lot of moving machinery or trains or things like that.
Excellent. And I think that I really like the fact that you're doing the stuff with Edinburgh Airport, where Gavin from Neatbox is doing stuff too. I think this is a great example of how we can create an inclusive ecosystem where companies are opening the door for other companies that are also innovating and welcoming people in to participate in the space. So, he's got a high-tech solution. You've got a low-tech solution, but they're very complementary.
Yeah.
Don't know if I like that.
He's over here.
Yeah, it's all right. But it's not. You're not embedding computer chips, and you know what? Low tech is robust, right? It's yeah. So you may be using high tech fabrics, but it's not going to run out of battery power anytime soon.
We love like the Neatbox. The way if people are like Jonathan, who might be on the chat. He's used it a few times at Edinburgh where he's booked it and booked the Ramble Tag, and there's lots of situations where it needs something like that to. It's not Ramble Tag is not the only solution. It's got to be that the companies that are using them, if it's real companies, they know the people are coming and they expect them and they're prepared for them and everything. Like we've travelled a lot, and there's. Although going the leaving journey's fine, we've been quite a few times let down by assistants, and it wouldn't matter whether they were wearing one or not because they've not turned up. So there's that side of things. There's a whole wee network of things that obviously need to come together for it to work properly.
I think the solution lies in. We need continuity. I think it would be great that whatever your disability, if you knew what to expect, then it would make travelling, for example, a whole lot easier. I think that it's the case that physically able and sighted people have concerns about travelling, whether it be about the weather or what clothes to wear. But, for a disabled person to have, taken account of their disability puts a far bigger, pressure on them. And I think that, as you were saying, if you know what you're going to expect, then there's not going to be any surprises for you. And it makes your travelling a lot better. Yeah,
I think that people don't really realise just how much planning goes into travelling for a lot of people with disabilities, because you've got multiple additional layers of logistics. So if you've got a guide, you've got to make sure that your guide's available. You've got to make sure that if you're using a wheelchair, you've got to think about, wheelchair accessible places of transport. So you may end up doing a much longer journey in order to go by public transport. Accessible taxis, whether or not they're actually going to, accept wheelchairs, but also whether they'll accept guide dogs, because we frequently hear tales of companies that, despite the legislation, still don't allow guide dogs. That's a real problem. So not only knowing what you should expect, but yes, you're right, that consistency of service, because although you should expect some of this stuff to happen, it still doesn't, as you already alluded to. And then also, I think António was mentioning in our chat window that airports are, again, different in terms of services and how they treat people. And I've heard quite a lot of tales about people being met at the airport and being put into a wheelchair when they don't need to be, and they're quite happy to walk and be guided. So
that was their massive motivation. Tom's travelled and been offered the wheelchair and not been impressed.
No, it upsets me a great deal.
So, and also, if someone has a guide dog and they're offered a wheelchair, it's hard to have the dog and a wheelchair, or the buggy with the, how does the dog get on the buggy and all that kind of thing. So yeah. So
Tom, you mentioned that it upsets you. I mean, sorry to pick at an open wound, but why do you think that people make an assumption that you, as someone who is blind, need to be in a wheelchair?
That's a question and a half, my good man. I've absolutely no idea. The mere fact that I possibly walk to the assistance desk and say, I'm, needing some help to get on the right platform, and they produce this thing, or even worse, a big giant yellow buggy electric thing that goes, Yes. Why on earth they think I want to sit in that and look like an idiot? I don't know. So
when we have used it, we do the Queen's wave. I think the reason why they offer the wheelchair is because they don't have an alternative, and that's where hopefully we come in.
We need choice. We need choice. Yeah. Let us people with disabilities say to them, I want to do it my way. And if Frank can do it, so can we.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for enabling other people to do it their way as well. So we need to thank our supporters, Barclays Access, Microlink, and MyClearText for keeping us on air and keeping us accessible. We look forward very much to you joining us on AXSChat this Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You. Great fun.
You're welcome.